Neat Nation, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, or good whatever. Glad to have you back at the Droopy Whiskey Show, where today we're tackling a topic that's probably overdue. I mean, it's like one of the first 4 or 5 videos you're supposed to put out if you're starting a whiskey channel, and it's answering the question, what are the best beginner bourbons? Bourbons you would recommend to a beginner. That list is nigh infinite. Nigh infinite. It's near infinite. It's big. The list is big. And I've seen many videos that kind of overlap. I'm not here to tell you that Wild Turkey 101 is a good beginner bourbon. I'm not here to tell you Evan Williams Single Barrel is a good beginner bourbon. There are other videos to do that. So what I'm trying to do here today is throw out some beginner bourbons. Maybe you're a beginner and you've tried the top 5 beginner bourbons, and now you want to try another 5 or another 7 or 8 or however many I share with you today. Here are some ones maybe you haven't tried before if you're a beginner. If you've been into this a long time, you've probably had these. Before we get into that, let's drink some bourbon. I'm going to have a little pour here today from my pirate bottle. I had to replace the cork so the cork doesn't fit, so saran wrap. I don't even know if that's good, but the juice inside is good. I've been chipping away at this thing. My goodness. Old Elijah Craig is way better than new Elijah Craig. And new Elijah Craig's still really good. It's actually a pretty good beginner bourbon, though I'm not talking about it today. If you want more content, like, comment, subscribe, the whole 9 yards. Follow me on Instagram at Droopy Whiskey. And then tune back in here at the Droopy Whiskey channel Thursday nights, 8 o'clock Central Time for live streams. That's kind of like podcast-style content, but visual, with my friend Brian Bikey at Abandoned Bourbon. You can also follow us and support on Patreon, patreon.com/entryproofpodcast. That's Brian and my Patreon. And if you want barrel picks, we got some Starlight stuff dropping soon. And the Mythical Middle West, well, you know what? I have no idea when it's dropping, but barrel's coming, and we're doing a pick this Saturday at Driftless Glen. All right, let's get into these beginner bourbons. Do a mic adjust here. Talk about some whiskeys that if you're new to this whole thing, you may not have tried these, but I'd be like, hey, you know what you should try? You should try these. First one up. Old Forester Statesman. Old Forester 100 proof. Standard, like, black label, black and orange label, Old Forester. Pretty solid. Good budget product, $20, $25-ish. Not bad. I mean, it'll do. But if I'm trying to get somebody into bourbon, I want to get them into goods. Like, I want them to taste the right stuff. And Statesman, while it's way more expensive than Old Forester 100, is not, exorbitant. It's $50, and the quality you get in that bottle at 95 proof for like $50 is very, very good. Like, if I were doing a blind of the Old Forester series, I'd imagine I'd be pretty stuck between 1920 and Statesman as my favorite. I think Statesman delivers a nice age profile. I wish the proof was a little bit higher, but that's actually what I think makes it a good beginner bourbon. 95 proof, which like all my picks here are lowish proof, like 101 proof and below, not Wild Turkey 101. So they're pretty palatable to somebody who's not accustomed to barrel proof. Turpentine, gasoline, jet fuel, etc. So Old Forester Statesman, often overlooked even by whiskey enthusiasts, but massively underrated. Very, very good bottle. Whiskey number 2. We're going to stay with Old Forester. Why not? Why not? What's on a lot of people's list for beginner bourbons is Woodford Reserve Double Oak. They're like, hey, if you want something that's more oaky, that communicates like a more aged profile, you should get Woodford Double Oaked. Well, Old Forester 1910 is also great. It is oaky, no doubt. So if you want to know what oak tastes like in a bourbon, get yourself some Old Forester 1910. It's going to run you about $50, maybe $60 on the high end. It was really hard to come by when it was initially released a few years ago. It's much more attainable now. And the proof level is still really engaging, accessible, 93 proof, not high proof. Big flavor for the amount of proof that you have to put up with. This one to me is marshmallows. It's toasty marshmallows with maybe some bourbon cherries, like a Luxardo cherry. But if the cherry's light, the marshmallow with plenty of charcoal is playing first fiddle. But it's the best way, I think, to get your hands on a well-aged product that's not really well-aged. It's probably like 5-year-old bourbon that just then goes into a new barrel again. But it works. It works out. So, 2 Old Forester products there. Boom. Not sponsored. Next up, we're taking a hard left turn. The profile of Old Forester is very smooth, delicate, refined, caramely, sometimes banana-y, oaky with the 2 products that I mentioned. This next product is a little bit more for the, like if you want to learn what a hard-working bourbon is, if you want that bourbon that makes you feel like you're at a Western bar, I've used that expression before, then a good one to pull for that's not going to set you back any money, therefore it makes pretty good budget bourbon, in addition to a beginner bourbon, is JTS Brown. Yeah. That's an Evan Hill product. It's not Evan Williams Bottled in Bond. It's not Evan Williams Single Barrel, because those show up on people's beginner bourbon lists all the dang time. You know what gets ignored? JTS Brown. Also JW Dant, but out of the 2, I think I'll pick Brown for today's thing. It's nutty, but it's caramely, and it's got oak. It's not grainy. It's just a no-nonsense, really cheap bourbon. I mean, not too dissimilar from the old discontinued Heaven Hill White Label 6-year-old Bottled in Bond. It's like, it pays homage to that, and people aren't hoarding that one, so you can find it if you look around. It's everywhere in Kentucky, and like $12, and you can get it in Wisconsin too, so I assume you can probably get it some other places. Whiskey number 4. And really, the rest of these whiskeys are not going to be surprises to people who watch the Droopy Whiskey channel. Again, my motivation, if this is a beginner bourbon, I don't want to make it too expensive. But I want you to experience something that you're going to be like, yes, please. I want some more of that. So the next one we're going with is one of my favorites, and probably in the top 2 or 3 bottles that are accessible, that if I could only pick one bourbon for the rest of my life and it had to be currently accessible now, it would be in the top 3 for sure, and that's Four Roses Single Barrel. 100 proof, generally 8 years old, Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. It's floral, it's fruity, it's oaky, it's creamy, it's got good sweetness. I mean, yeah, sign me up all day. It's a journey. It's probably the most complex bourbon that I have on this list. So if you're looking for something and you've never tried Four Roses before, you should definitely try Four Roses. And I would recommend this is where you start. Because if you're like me and you start with Four Roses small batch or the Four Roses 80 proof yellow label, you might be like, no, I don't like Four Roses. Actually, I think you do. I think most people probably do like Four Roses. They just need to get them some single barrels. Whiskey number 5, we're going to take a step back into the more brash category. But far from unrefined. This is a good bourbon, 90 proof again. So the proof points on these are all accessible, and this one's at 90 proof. It's coming in low, almost, I dare say. And it's not Eagle Rare. It's not Buffalo Trace, because you know what? Those are on everybody else's lists. This is on some lists, but it should be on everybody's list, because the value on this, $30, 10-year-old Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. Right? That's Eagle Rare MSRP, but you can't get it. You can get this bourbon anywhere. It's from Wild Turkey. It's not Wild Turkey 101. It's Russell's Reserve. I think Russell's Reserve 10-year, 90 proof, is so much better than Wild Turkey 101. Wild Turkey 101 is fine. I'm not hating the OG. But I'm not liking it as much as I'm liking Russell's Reserve. So Wild Turkey 101 at 20 versus Russell's Reserve 10 at 30. Yeah, I'm Russell's. It's worth $10 to me. I enjoy it that, like, 1/3 more, or 50% more, I guess. Math in public. Yeah, it's worth that to me, for sure. If you haven't caught on by now, I'm a big single barrel guy. And the last 2 are also single barrels. The reason I'm a single barrel guy is I feel like when a distiller drops single barrel products, they're kind of exhibiting, by and large, not always, you have a shot of tasting the best stuff that they have to offer. Their choice barrels, their honey barrels, as folks say. So the last two picks, certainly, for me, I'm not hesitating to recommend you get some single barrel products. The first one from 1792. This one you used to be able to get everywhere, anywhere and everywhere, for like $35. And it's about $35 good. And I imagine it's just like a glassware issue, because 1792 products have been much harder to find recently, but they also have very unique bottle style. So I expect they'll show up again. I know Barton's cranking out a ton of juice. I don't think 1792 is going anywhere. So the 1792 single barrel, just below 100 proof, is nice. And some of them rock. Really drinkable, crushable, sweet, a little spicy, a little banana. It gets dynamic. It's not Four Roses dynamic, and it's not Four Roses good either. I would take Four Roses over the 1792. But there's a noticeable increase in quality from the 1792 small batch to the 1792 single barrel. I'm out on the 1792 bottled and bond. When I tried it, pure banana. If you're a big banana guy, maybe try 1792 bottled and bond. But for me, single barrel. You know what? Another single barrel that I'll throw at you here. Last whiskey of the night. That I think if you're wanting to try something that feels top shelf and kind of tastes top shelf, a whiskey I've recommended many times. I'll recommend it many times again, but I don't think people see this as a beginner whiskey. I think it should be. That's Wild Turkey Kentucky Spirit. So 2 Wild Turkey products, no 101. Crucify me. Wild Turkey Kentucky Spirit is 101 proof. It's just so much better than Wild Turkey 101. It's 2.5 times the price, but it's like 5 times better. And I think that we should hold up Wild Turkey Kentucky Spirit as the new Blanton's. I hope it doesn't go away like Blanton's, but it's like, I'll take it in taste profile over Blanton's, standard Blanton's, all days of every week. I would do that. It's oaky. It's the caramel and brown sugar notes on it just carry. It's got a suggestion of nuttiness, wild turkey funkiness, but I like that. I like this Kentucky bourbon attitude and spunk. It doesn't get bitter. It doesn't get like black peppery. It doesn't get medicinal at all. It just crushes, and you can crush it. I mean, that's one of those whiskeys we would describe as dangerous, because next thing you know, you're getting into beginner bourbon, and you open that bottle, and you've had like half of it. You're not paying attention. I mean, be careful. I wouldn't recommend you do that, but I could see you doing that because it's that good. Before I sign off, one note I'm going to call out here. Another hot take. I'm not recommending any Jim Beam products for a beginner. They're just yikes. I mean, Basil Hayden is diet crap. It's 80 proof garbage. I mean, it wouldn't be good at 100 proof. It's just not good. I dislike that profile so much. Old Grandad too, really harsh. Even Knob Creek 100 proof, that 100 proof 9-year-old Knob Creek is hot. I mean, it kicks. I like it. Knob Creek single barrel, I like it a lot. But for a beginner, I think it just might be a little aggressive. So I'm going to save that Knob Creek one for like, you're 4 months in, you've got 8 bottles, you've killed a few, you've been to a couple bars. Hey, let's try some Knob Creek. And yeah, no Buffalo Trace either, because it's just, you can't count on it being accessible. And either Buffalo Trace or Eagle Rare or both are in everybody's beginner whiskey lists. That's because they are really accessible flavor profiles. Like pretty delicious stuff. I'm for that. But here's some new stuff. The 7 I named. I hope you guys enjoyed those. Feel free to tell me that I'm wrong. I can take it like a man, like a person. You name it, I can take it like that. Shout out to the members of Nation who I did an Instagram poll. I said, yo, Nation, what are you guys shouting out to your peeps who are like, hey, I need a bourbon recommendation. I'm thinking about getting into it. So shout out to people who made recommendations. A couple of them made this list. Y'all stay tuned next Monday for more Droopy Whiskey video content, or tune in, as I mentioned, Thursday for those live streams. Those are good times, for sure. Till then, y'all, just do what you do. Keep it neat. Also, I heard Tiger Woods is supposed to play the Masters this year, so that's pretty cool.